great to see all of you here. Thank you for joining our session on exploring the latest innovations on Guidewire Cloud Platform. My name is Rob Sloan. I am the product marketing principal for Guidewire Cloud. I am joined on the stage by Chris Vavra, Nick Fleck, and Gal Josephsberg. If you've seen Amy Mullen's keynote address, these are the three leaders on her team defining the future of Guidewire Cloud Platform. So they are the best possible people to tell you about the latest innovations. They'll speak in just a minute. I do have some housekeeping first. There will be Q&A in this session. By all means, you're welcome to come up to the microphone and speak. If you were in any sessions yesterday, nobody actually does that. So by all means, just shout out questions. It's a small room. I'll repeat them. It's very important that we get them on the audio recording, which is why we have microphones, but it's fine for engagement. You just shout them out when we get to that. I'll repeat them. I do also have our safe harbor. I've been told that next year we'll actually have it split up into 2 pages with twice the words. It means that we will be talking about the future in this presentation, and please do not construe that as a commitment. We reserve the right to change plans at any time.
Oh no, Rob, you got to read the whole thing.
Well, I was going to give them a chance to, and I'll come back in 6 minutes. All right, so what we're going to do today, I'm going to give you a quick reminder of the Guidewire architecture and specifically GWCP. Chris will talk about application services, Nick will talk about data and analytics services, and then Gal will talk about cloud infrastructure, and then we'll get to Q&A. So I suspect many of you have seen this diagram or some version of it over the last day or two, if not much sooner than that. Guidewire Cloud Platform literally is the foundation of all things Guidewire, all of our solutions, all of our apps, our user experience. It's got 3 components: application services, data and analytics services, and Guidewire Cloud infrastructure. As one of you said somewhere in our prep, we'll be taking the clockwise approach to going through them. And so Chris will go first, and with that, I'll pass the clicker.
All right. Thanks a lot, Rob. So application services, our goal within the app services team is really focusing on our developer ecosystem, whether that's our Guidewire applications team for claims, billing, and policy, or our local connect solutions for different geographies, or whether that's our SI partners and other solution partners that are building solutions on the platform or integrating with the platform. We aim to make that as productive as possible to enable the innovative and demanding solutions that you all expect on the platform. We're really putting a key focus into enabling an open platform that's highly productive and is leveraging open standards and APIs, and really focusing in on enabling how we're able to streamline not only the development and lifecycle of reusable solutions, but the business configuration tooling that analysts and systems integrators can use to be able to configure the live system for the unique needs of your specific applications. So we've been very busy in the application services since the Aspen release on cloud, and every 6 months we've been delivering new innovations on the platform and new enhancements. I'll talk in a little bit about some recent things we've delivered on cloud integration framework, our updates to our APIs, and our updates to our advanced product designer. But another thing that we'd been working on last year that we've continuing to work on is really streamlining how we enable updates to the platform and enhancements to the application that make it really easy to do upgrades. So instead of taking months, to do an upgrade or an update to the latest version, we're really aiming to get that down to weeks or days, and we've actually had a couple of really fantastic successes on that. We continue to invest in that. In terms of what's coming next, some of the things we're looking at in the intermediate and longer term, we really want to focus in on the developer experience on Guidewire Cloud applications, going beyond what we have today with Studio for the core application, and focusing in on the business configuration tooling, taking advanced product designer, and even going beyond just product definition to additional types of configuration of the system, but then also focusing on additional requirements and capabilities that even developers would need in order to customize the system or develop reusable content. So we're taking a pretty broad approach in terms of streamlining the future of what that development experience looks like. And as we mature the new capabilities for how we develop applications and run them on the platform, we're going to spend quite a bit more time in looking at how we're going to scale our ecosystem so that we can enable a much broader set of solutions, not only from Guidewire, but from our solution and systems integration partners. So let's go into a couple of the key highlights for what's new. We're introducing a new way to do application integration with the platform with our new cloud integration framework. And that's really aiming to take advantage of an API-first approach and open standards and open frameworks to enable rapid and agile development of integrations on the cloud. It's comprised of three key elements. The first is the Cloud API, which we've had in place for quite some time since our Aspen release, and we continue to add additional coverage for that API over time. We have a new outbound event-driven API, which is more of our strategic cloud-based replacement for event messaging for those who are familiar with event messaging within the core application. This enables you to really easily publish data related to claims and policy lifecycle activities and all the associated claim and policy data associated with the event that you need to trigger cross-application workflows and integrations. So we enable that without having to require any coding and make that a lot easier to configure and take advantage of. Probably the most significant new capability that we've introduced is our integration gateway, which is a microservice that enables you to develop individual integration apps that enable bridging between Guidewire and third-party applications, and you can deploy those and lifecycle those outside of the InsuranceSuite core application. Gives you a lot more of agility and flexibility. So we're really excited about this. We already have one customer in production under our early access program. We're aiming to make this generally available in the Elysian timeframe. But we have a couple other customers that are in development, and we have a few partners that are also beginning in development with the new integration. So we're really excited about this. The next area is enhancements specifically to our cloud APIs. We have a standardized set of REST APIs for accessing the business function data within the application. And as we progress release by release, we've been expanding the coverage of this API set so that we can handle a full range of integration and digital experience use cases. We have a couple key things we've introduced in this latest update. For claims, the primary new capability is around financials. And within policy, we've added capability for referrals, renewals, and contingencies. In Billing Center, we don't really have much coverage there yet, but we have introduced the Cloud API framework to Billing Center and the base admin APIs for that. And last but not least, our Advanced Product Designer. We've been continuing to iterate on this for agile configuration by business analysts of the product definition. Two, I think, key things at this conference. One is we're taking the Advanced Product Designer, which was actually deployed and running inside the InsuranceSuite core application. And because it's for development specifically, we've split that out as a standalone microservice. So as a configurator, you can go to log into Guidewire Home, click the link to get into the Advanced Product Designer and work on your product definitions and lifecycle them from there. The other thing I'm sure you've heard about is our launch of Guidewire Go, which is a standard set of product definitions based on the Advanced Product Designer that enable you to get up and running quickly with new product definitions. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Nick to talk about the data platform. Nick?
Awesome. Thanks, Chris.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Nick Fleck. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about our data and analytics strategy. Put simply, our customers need to innovate, and the way they do that is on Guidewire Cloud, right? And in order to innovate, you need to be able to weave data and analytics into pretty much everything that you do, from your back office experiences for the workers that live within your company to consumer experiences that for your actual customers as they're going through the buying experience and other touch points that you have with them along the way, right? So what we're trying to do here is essentially turn InsuranceSuite into an end-to-end analytic machine, right? Where you can leverage your data, you can operate your business on Guidewire, leverage your data very easily, connect that to a machine learning-based pipeline to embed intelligence back inside Claim Center and Policy Center and Billing Center to guide and automate workflow or kick out decisions to your knowledge-based workers to help customers along their journey. And then on the back end of that, continuously learn, right? Because it's not just about deploying analytics, you have to understand how it's impacting your business. Is it improving it? Are you getting the types of returns and the investments that you're making and things like that, right? So in order for us to actually deliver that, we have baked in a data platform that's natively part of Guidewire Cloud, and you really need two main components. The first is less about the technology, and it's more about making the data really easy to use, right? So you'll see data as a service on here. We get asked a lot about how we're different than Snowflake and some of the other data warehousing and data lake providers out there that you guys are all using for your broader data ecosystems. And the answer is easy, right? We're focusing not on the technology, but on curating the data so that we can make it trusted so that when you go to use it, you can use it with confidence to build reporting and analytics, whether it's in our ecosystem or your own. Once you solve for that problem, the next thing you need to do is connect it to an end-to-end analytic pipeline so you can build and train machine learning models to embed that intelligence that I was talking about, and to visualize the data so that you can get performance insight across your entire organization. And then all of that needs to be embedded seamlessly inside Claim Center and Policy Center to make it actionable, right? So after you solve for those two things, really the top where it says Analytic Solutions is the ultimate end state that we're trying to get to, right? Where not just Guidewire can use this platform and set of capabilities to build those kinds of analytics experiences you need inside Claim Center, Policy Center, and Billing Center, but we can open that up to our partner network as well to use the platform to build out an ecosystem of these analytic solutions that you can just turn on, right? And that's really what we're after here. So to do that, we've actually come a long way in a pretty short amount of time. When we first launched Aspen, our first major cloud release, we focused heavily on the first aspect of that, which is taking every single field, every single change to those fields inside InsuranceSuite and streaming them in near real time into that cloud-native data platform so we can preserve the option value of that data for you, right? And through that, we also provided a first service called Cloud Data Access, which allows you to tap into that streaming feed so you can bring it down into your broader data ecosystem, whether you have a data lake or warehouse, so that you can get more real-time insights into the data or batch it up to do data warehousing, your financial reporting, analytic modeling, sandbox for actuaries, and a host of other sort of use cases that it supports. From there, over the last year or so, we've been focusing very heavily on going the next sort of step, which is taking that raw data and building on it, making it curated, right? So that we can do things like help you manage your financial reporting a lot more effectively by looking at earnings and profitability and losses and premiums and simplifying the data into a data model that you know how to use and that you can trust because it's audited and balanced so you know that it's right. So we've been focusing very heavily on that, and the culmination of that investment is really kind of where we're going next. We have Data Studio GA. Raise your hand if you're familiar with Data Studio so far, or you've heard anything about it this week. Okay, not too many folks. So Data Studio is an early access application right now that we're partnering with a few key Guidewire Cloud customers on to kind of refine it and bring it to market. But it's essentially an application that sits on top of the data platform, so you can view all of that raw streaming data or all of the curated data that we're layering into the platform, query it so you can understand how it's structured, and then join it together and publish data sets into that end-to-end analytic pipeline that I talked about. So you can dynamically train models through predictive analytics, one of our other applications, or visualize the result for performance monitoring through Explore, another one of our applications. So we're starting to kind of get to that really true end-to-end analytic framework pipeline that I talked about. But also, as Chris mentioned, we are focusing very heavily on being an open platform as well. So this application will let you get all of those rich assets out of our ecosystem and into your own. So if you are investing in a broader data lake, warehouse, you have your own modeling teams, this will be a big accelerant to those kind of efforts, right? And we really view our strategy as not either or, it's more both end. So we expect that you're going to use us because we're going to kind of build this seamless end-to-end framework within InsuranceSuite that makes it super easy to leverage your data for analytics, but also build those things in your own ecosystems as well and be able to bring the analytic result back into our ecosystem. So we're really focusing on enabling both. So we're targeting Data Studio GA for Elysian, which is our upcoming May release. After we get that in place, we already have some of the hooks in so that when you can publish data, you can publish it to predict for machine learning and explore for visualization like I talked about. But really, we need to invest more in blurring the boundaries between those offerings. So that way, we can make it super simple and close the loop. So once you actually deploy these kinds of analytics, you can measure your business performance KPIs as a result. So that's really leading into the end-to-end analytics framework that we're investing pretty heavily in. And then last but not least, I talked about extending our data and analytics solutions. We rolled out a first set of these in Cortina and a second set in Dobson. To give you an idea of what that looks like, one example is initial claim segmentation for personal auto, right? We have a data set that can be deployed dynamically into Data Studio that runs off your claim center data automatically, which curates it into a modeling-ready data set that can then be automatically hooked up to predictive analytics to train the model for that specific use case, which gives you a scoring output and context. And then that becomes automatically injected back inside Claim Center. So within the Claim Center experience, you can configure workflow, rules, and automation around the scoring input for initial claim segmentation, which helps you do things like segment which claims to straight through process or kick out to an adjuster at first notice of loss, right? So we're going to continue investing in those kinds of solutions as we mature that end-to-end pipeline to give you kind of a lot more of that instant-on value of using solutions through us within Guidewire Cloud. So talking a little bit about some of the Dobson features that we focused very heavily on, Data Studio GA is really the big one, and that's not coming out until Elysian as the target. But in the meantime, we've been advancing that Cloud Data Access service that I talked about that provides streaming replicated access to your data. Within Dobson, we rolled out 3 new lower environment types to really focus on improving the developer experience like Chris talked about, right? So providing a standard sort of development version, an uplifted version, and then a performance version that you can not just access and use for your development efforts, but also as automated on top of Guidewire Cloud Platform to kind of reduce the time it takes to maintain environments as you're going through the development process. So that being said, that's really what we wanted to take you through for data analytics. We're really excited to get to a point where we're making Data Studio GA and available. We're already seeing tons of lift out of that with our current customers, and we're looking forward to working with all of you as we kind of mature that offering to make InsuranceSuite more smart for you. So thank you, guys. I'll hand the ball over to Gal.
Hi, everyone. I think I've met with many of you before, but I'm here to talk about Guidewire Cloud Infrastructure. The goal for the infrastructure is and always has been to try to make things as effortless as possible. Effortless for our developers and effortless for yours. And I joke with Diego that if I do my job right, then none of you should know me, right? Because hopefully what I'm trying to do is reduce the friction it takes for both our developers to get stuff to market, and also for your developers to develop the products you need on top of our platform. So we're not quite there yet, and unfortunately, too many of you know me. Some of you even text me on the weekends with the occasional feature request. But hopefully, we will get more and more to that vision of effortless. And as part of that, you can see that our development strategies have remained the same, right? Security and stability, that's always going to be number one. Automation and self-serve capabilities, right? Both to help our developers, but also to help yours. I have a particular goal for this year, which is nothing you do should require a ticket to our cloud operations, right? It's the new model is all about the ATM, right? In fact, not even about the ATM, it's about the app. Nobody wants to go to the bank or even go to the ATM to do any of your banking, right? You want to be able to do it yourself at home. And the same is true of developers, right? They don't want to send a ticket to our cloud operations. They don't want to do things and wait 2 days until it gets done. They either want it automated or self-served. So that will continue to be one of our goals. The only one I would actually like to draw your attention to here, because I think deliver customer requested features, support Guidewire innovation, that's a given, is fast cadence updates. We've added that for this year. We're working with our internal team on what we can do as people upgrade from ski resort to ski resort, right? We need to make that as easy and smooth as possible. We would like people to be no more than one version behind. So when Elysian comes out, we would like there to be nobody on, let's say, Cortina or earlier. Actually, sorry, banned for earlier. If we don't make updates easy, that's not going to happen, right? If updates require months, well, you're not going to do one of those a year. So we've got a big goal for this year on how do we make updates much faster and as automated as possible, with the goal of, the core of Guidewire should be updatable in less than 2 weeks. It's an ambitious goal, and anybody who's done a Guidewire upgrade in the past knows that's pretty ambitious, but that's what we're working on. So let's talk about where we've been and where we're going. 2020, and thank you, there's some of you in the room who worked with us in 2020 on being some of the first customers on this, was all about getting the MVP out. It's all about, the bare bones automation and self-serve capabilities. It was basically how do we make the first few customers successful on Guidewire Cloud Platform. In 2021, we added a lot around that MVP, but especially looking at scalability and observability so that I wouldn't get less of those weekend texts on, hey, Gal, there's something that we're seeing here. Can you help us out with this? And then what's next? So obviously continuous improvement on all of these things. We're never going to stop looking at security and stability. Those are always going to be goal number 1 and 2. I joke that any platform person who doesn't have those as goals number 1 and 2, like that should be your roadmap always, right? You're always looking to improve the platform. But we're also working on fast cadence updates. I mentioned those. We're working on requested features. I'm going to highlight a couple of those as I go through the rest of the presentation. And I think this is, and it was a little bit painful. And I thank my peers here on the stage because, for the last year and a half, 2 years, we've mainly focused on getting all of you successful on GWCP. And as you hear them say something like, oh, I'm still in EA, a lot of that is on my teams because we've prioritized features that we need for customers ahead of features that we need to enable what they're doing. But a lot of the focus now is shifting. As we've developed and delivered the MVP, we're also looking to enable this, right? So that features that we, Guidewire, develop no longer sit in EA and can be GA to all of you easily and quickly and automatically instead of relying on cloud operations to enable something. So with that, let's talk about, I love that animated graphic, by the way. You can clearly tell this slide was not created by me. So one of the big things that we've delivered this year, and again, that was in cooperation with Chris's team, who did a lot of the heavy lifting, was all around blue-green. So those of you who've done a Guidewire deployment know that used to take quite a while measured in hours, right? During which your customers could not access Guidewire, and so your business essentially grinds to a halt. Blue-green allows us to do a Guidewire update and eliminate a lot of that downtime. So with blue-green, basically, we get a new cluster with the new version up and going while the old cluster is working. I'm happy to dive into more detail if anybody wants it, but the end result is the update is now measured in a matter of minutes instead of hours. How many minutes? It's the obvious follow-up question. Don't know, because it's going to depend to some extent on your setup and the size of the update and so on. But the change that we're seeing is pretty dramatic. Will it work for every update? No, there are some updates that you cannot go through this. But this, in combination with some of the codeless updates that Chris was talking about, have combined to make Guidewire updates just much faster and much less burdensome than they were before. Next, Guidewire Cloud Home is much more inclusive. So for those of you who are not using it yet, and that's on us, I don't think we're sending the URL out yet, we've got this cool new thing called Guidewire Cloud Home, right? Because up until now, most of what you did, you would either go to Guidewire Cloud Console or you would go into the X Center itself. That's not true anymore. We now have all of these microservices, right? The integration gateway, the data studio, all of these things that are now separate from the X Centers. And how do we, and it's such a trivial question and yet such an important one, which is, how do we make those available to our users, right? If you don't know where to go to access them, you're not going to use them. And that's the hardest thing for a product manager is I released this awesome new feature. Why isn't anybody using it? And a lot of times what you go into is, oh, because they don't know about it or they don't know how to access it, right? And so Guidewire Cloud Home is this new launchpad for Guidewire that you can go to and see all of the functionality that you, as a user, are allowed to use and that you've enabled for your system. And it basically allows you to navigate from here to here to here as you do your work. And it's the one place to go to if you're never not sure, oh, how do I get somewhere in Guidewire? You go to Guidewire Cloud Home. We are adding, in fact, we already added notifications to Guidewire Cloud Home. There's a lot of cool new stuff around here. But yeah, it's truly meant as the launch pad for Guidewire and is the place for all of you to start your work. Okay, so this is, depending on who you are in the audience, your eyes are either going to glaze over as I talk about this, or you're going to be like, yes, because somewhere on your development team, there are a few people who really hate me because every time we do a database backup, they have to send in a ticket to our cloud operations team, and that is horribly frustrating, right? And I literally had somebody talk to me yesterday about like, oh, we forgot to do a backup, and then we screwed up our environment, and can you fix this for us, right? I mean, that should be self-serve. That should not be that sort of frustrating process. And again, if you've never dealt with this, you're like, oh, could you go on to more exciting features? But trust me, right now there's somebody in this room who's like, my life is so much better. So we've enabled this. This should actually be already out to production with all of you. And it's simple, right? It's literally the ability to look at an environment and go, I want to back up the database. Now I've got a library of these database images that I can restore anywhere else. We're going to expand this feature going forward, right? We wanted to work with our data masking tool so that you can bring in masked images. We wanted to work with production so that you can manage production copies as well. But hey, this is where we start. Just trying to gauge which one of you are the excited ones and which one of you are the unexcited ones. It's a little difficult with the masks, but back to you, Rob, right?
Back to me. One other thing that I didn't mention at the beginning, one of the great things about GWCP is that we update it every couple weeks. And so while we're talking about certain features that are in fact tied to Dobson or Elysian, you can see improvements, database backups is in production now, even though Dobson hasn't come out, but we kind of talk about it around the Dobson timeframe. And
just to clarify, by the way, something on that. So we, all of us here, by the way, not just my part, we release various components, to Rob's point. Some of them are released every 2 weeks, some of them are released every week, some of them are released every 4 weeks. Due to the nice decoupled nature of the platform now, you don't have to wait for a ski resort release to get an update to some of these services. With some things you still do, and in terms of marketing and as a company, we still launch features in these ski resort releases. But this is a pretty modern architecture we're talking about, and so it allows us to update and continuously maintain these separate services on their own maintenance schedule.